Welcome, everybody. This is very exciting, really exciting. First of all, because we're honoring National Poetry Month, and we've got three amazing authors here with us today. Two poet laureates and one poet laureate emeritus. And so I suspect that's why some of you are here, and that's delightful. Before we begin, I do like to acknowledge and honor the Kikite First Nations and all Coast Salish people on whose unceded territory we live, learn, and work. All right, so first up is Alan Hill. And Alan Hill was born in the UK and immigrated to Canada after meeting his wife while working in Botswana. He is the former Poet Laureate of the City of New Westminster, BC, 2017 to 2020, former president of the Royal City Literary Arts Society, and was the editor and curator of A Poetry Place, Journeys Across New Westminster, published in partnership with the New Westminster Arts Services. His writing has been published internationally, and his poetry has appeared in Event, CV2, Canadian Literature, the Antigonus Review, Subterrane, Poetry is Dead, among others. He works in the field of community development and immigrant settlement and lives in New Westminster, BC. Let's welcome Alan. Even if he can't hear us, he can see us. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you.
Alan, yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much. I'm going to be reading from my new book called In the Blood, which is available from all good bookstores, apparently, I'm told, and it's published by Caitlin Press. So look out for it. It's out there somewhere in the world, doing its own thing. I don't know what it's doing, but it's out there doing something. I'm going to read from this book, as I say. This book's really kind of a memoir of growing up with a brother who had quite a severe mental illness, and still does. Visiting him in institutions, and some stuff about my own mental wellness journey towards some form of bizarre mental wellness as well in there, you know, whatever that may be. Never quite figured that out. So I'm going to read to you. This one is for my brother, and it's an old one. It's called Eating My Own Heart, for Christopher Hill. Overwhelm me, brother, obsess me, make me you. Now that would be love. And I would need to kill you for that. Take an axe to your double bind, see it triple bind in that silent forest at the beginning of us. The start of humankind, its tight-fingered blood, curled in the ear of first light seen by nobody. That is who we are. We are the sharing of all you have, the needles, tablets, the half-life rooming houses of the strapped-down normality you're allowed to be. All your death, which is nothing but mine, that I cannot live without. You and I together, trapped beneath the tree that fell, that could not be heard, that is crushing us with the hardness of love, bedding us on the sharpened points of Eden. And thank you. So yeah, I read ones based on childhood memories, kind of a mixture of different memories thrown together, visiting my brother in institutions. He was in a big institution, it's a bit like what we used to have in New Westminster, the Woodlands Hospital, you know, one of those big old-fashioned institutions that don't tend to exist now. It's called the Asylum Visit. An inverted Victorian castle built to keep in, not out. My mother efficiently shuffled me through identical corridors, slipped in through security doors onto the ward, past anonymous doctors in crumpled whites, those little worker ants with delusions of grandeur or clipboard attitude, smudgy glasses, who never seem to see you, move through you in reptilian slip. Here there was milky cold coffee, a rainbow of medication, the poor, the terminal, the chronic, my older brother, perched silently over a plate of beans. Then the slippers. That was what I wanted to see. Pandas, sharks, hippos lined in their largactyl parade. Garfields, a Kermit, a foxhead, rooted on curled linoleum. That was for me. How I envied them with their exotic footwear, as my mother sat in silence, waited for time to be up, cigarettes burnt down onto carbuncled knuckles, nobody moved.
Whoa.
And this one's, I'm going to read one about the hospital dance. It's kind of a variety of different memories. I worked in an institution and used to organize Saturday night discos for people, for patients, but also it's about visiting my brother in his hospital on a Saturday night at a social event. It's called the hospital dance. On Saturday night, they came in ones or twos from their tiny rooms. For coke and chips, they inched themselves out onto the skin-thin hardwood, shimmy between the flakes of peeled plaster, dropped from uncleanable high ceilings. They came to dance, moved themselves to a squat bomb of antique record player that unstably vibrated on a glass-topped table. As I spun old 45s, donated by concerned relatives, picked up at thrift stores, middles missing from their jukebox days, from the days when people once paid to listen, they would have meant something for people more solid than us, to those who had edges, boundaries, dreams they could leave behind, had jobs, shadows that disappeared when they woke. Well, we have their music now for a while, a little bit of them as well. Most of us danced on our own, stretched unfashionable knitwear, yesterday's jeans, became lost in our own moves, disjointed as we uncoupled our bodies to the beat, worked on being invisible, becoming furniture in dim-lit corners. That night, a girl with smudgy glasses danced with the banisters. A teen with a wispy beard clapped in a corner. Nobody touched. In fact, nobody ever did touch, not here, where surviving in your own body was enough, knowing it was still there, still moving, however out of step to your commands. And okay, let's see what I've got here. Oh, okay. Not been very organized with this, so I'm just looking for the curled corners, and oh, that must be one I want to read. This is about my brother before he went into institutions for most of his life. Had one job at a like garden centre, and it's about that. And it's called Uneasy Rider, bit of a weak pun, of course. My brother only had one job. Commuted on his motorbike that he would forget to put gas in or lock where he had left it. Every journey completed 100 times before an acceleration in an unknown country. 16 years old, abandoned by school to negotiate a virulent uneasiness. At the garden centre, he would be busy for a while, slowly potted plants, shifted bags of shit, replanted seedlings, then he would drift. The manager would discover him among the hothouse blooms, fingers pressed on the glass as he looked for a hold. As he examined the silence between leaves, the budding oddness, a seeker by mistake, a pilgrim born through illness to scatter old seeds, blank eyes full of everything that glean nothing. Some forget where they have left their keys or wallet, others who they are. And let me go through here. What do we got? So one of my childhood memories is of the struggle. At first, before my brother was a full-time patient in this institution, he was a day patient. So an ambulance would turn up outside the door every morning. We'd have to get him out of bed and get him to the ambulance so they could take him to the hospital for the day, which was a lot of fun. He obviously didn't want to go. So this one's called Day Patients. Every day at 8 a.m., the ambulance came for him. Really more a white minibus with the word ambulance in large letters. So there was no misunderstanding why so many broken people were all together in this one place. No worry for the public that they had not been labelled, were controlled. My brother would leave them to wait as the driver with the face of a washed banknote smacked the horn. I wondered what it was like to be our neighbours, how lucky, superior, sorry they must have felt for us. Then I would be angry at my brother, at what he had done to us. That my mum could not leave for work. I could not finish breakfast, get to school until he was gone. We heard the sharp slam of doors, the slow acceleration away. And okay, we got here. I'm going to read some different ones, more about wellness than my own journey towards wellness during lockdown. Largely spent running and walking around New Westminster and going to the Glenbrook Ravine. I'll get a few New Westminster poems in there. Nighttime in the Ravine. And Janet likes this one, so. Nighttime in the ravine. Down I go into the blue lucid ice, labyrinth of liberty and winter light. Ghost lines, desire lines, the uncurling crozier of being, in footfall song lines, unreadable, the press of my boots over the unknown meteor of each moment. Above me a crow's lyric crackle, in my hand, the world in the perfection of a fallen egg. Behind me, there are blind roads, shallow ways, the suburbia and apocalypse, lockdown, in front of possibilities. The stories in each rock, in the move of a treetop in late day light. In the coyotes, their collection of votaries as they cross the border between being, otherness, that pull me in the homeward channel of the path, into the dissolve of solid geography, the rules of resonance, misfiring medication, rise of the clear grey water and nothingness, everything. In the death of sunlight, in this unknown knowledge, freedom, this pathway in the dark where I must go, where my mind cannot take itself, cannot find a reason, logic, without each step that is only mine to tread, 1 foot at a time, down into the meaning. And I'm going to read, okay, this is for my brother, it's called Epilogue, and it's about the sort of sanity he's managed to find himself. Epilogue. In the end, after the drugs, incarceration, enforced lovelessness, poverty, it was worth it all. He knows it now, how he'll always be strange, different, not one of them, perhaps not really even part of his own family. He has his room, TV, lazy boy, fridge, fish suppers, coach trips with the social group, bingo, Catholic church one day, Protestant the next, in the open shop of Jesus, his friendly people. He has his childhood memories from before this thing. His brother, sisters as they were, stored, untouchable, still real. All the images, ideas, things the doctors, psychiatrists could never reach. He is settled now, calmer, happy to be still, to sort, look deeper, find a truce. Be all that is there, peaceful, alive, beneath the disguise of his broken body, ill-fitting skin. Thanks. And I might just quickly read one more then, and just because it's new, and it's about New Westminster. I was thinking about the Kite and trying to think back and write about history, and then, you know, for most of us European settlers, it's kind of a blank going back a couple of 100 years and what's there, you know. So I was thinking about that a bit. The missing. You can hear it when the traffic dies, hooves, swarm of horses in high wind. Feel it as a skin of dust that has suddenly come up. Ambush me from behind the 7-Eleven kebab shop as I drag myself home, uphill from the supermarket. There is a hint of speech, not from here now, from before my people, from when there were others that we took, disappeared, that knew this place, knew the rise towards the mountain line, the way the snow recedes to show the sharpened rock, knew the way the river springs behind me, ready to knife me with sunlight, drop its muscled wrestle, spill my frozen pizza, Pop-Tarts into the street. Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And do buy my book. Someone has to.
I have my copy.
Good.
It's brilliant. It really is brilliant.
Thank you.
And you did a great job with that. And I also really like the last 2 poems that you read. That up next is Candice James. Candice James was appointed Poet Laureate Emerita by order of City Council in November 2016, after serving 2 back-to-back 3-year terms as Poet Laureate of the City of New Westminster. She is founder of the Royal City Literary Arts Society, where she introduced the Fred Cogswell Award for Excellence in Poetry and Poetry in the Park, and Poetic Justice as well. Candice is also a visual artist, musician, and author of 18 books of poetry. All right, Candice, take it away.
Okay, Carol, I am here and I am well. Nice to see everybody. I'm going to kind of bookend my poems. I'm going to start with a free verse, continue through with rhyming, which I've grown to like quite a lot, and I'll finish with a free verse. And they'll kind of introduce themselves. If they need an introduction, I guess I'll try to give them one, although I don't really know where some of them came from. So this one's called Intrinsic Special Magic. I love to look through a rain-rippled car windshield at a seemingly make-believe world. There's a gloss and shine dripping from nature's wet brush, an intrinsic special magic woven into these moments in time. Everything moving stands still, and everything static seems to move. It's an interchangeable impossibility and a possibility ever changing. Water is clear, transparent liquid. Raindrops are the same when they fall, but when they fall, they have momentary form. Water droplets falling from the sky, dissolving at the touch, like a wind-blown kiss that never arrives. Thank you. Now on to the rhymers. Hopefully people like rhyming poems. At one time I didn't, but I sure do now. Beautiful butterfly. The beautiful butterfly followed me along the shoreline. A beautiful butterfly of colorful design. How odd, I thought, on a day so hot, that a butterfly would follow the blue waterline. It started to flutter to and fro with every step, each stop and go, mostly drifting on my right-hand side as I walked the shallows of the incoming tide. As the day grew weary and I traveled on, I thought that butterfly would be long gone, but alas, it steadfastly stayed at my side as I walked the shallows of the incoming tide. I walked and I whispered to that butterfly of memories and dreams and days gone by. I was certain it was more than a mere insect, as it seemed to command my deepest respect. And then it hit me, out of the blue. Perhaps it was karma and someone I knew. I began humming a familiar song, and a hint of your essence sidled along. A beautiful butterfly followed me home. I knew you were here. I wasn't alone. Now each day I walk along the shoreline, my beautiful butterfly soft on my mind. Okay, and now the birds of prey. This is one I don't really know where it came from, but I was thinking about nighttime and it just kind of happened. A nightingale's copper voice was singing in the trees, serenading angels gliding on the breeze. A lonely robin's song announced the end of fall. Winter heard its voice and came running to its call. Under a haloed sky of approaching winter dawn, in a forest glade I saw a mother and her fawn, and carved into a cedar tree a woodpecker's profile. A beautiful acrylic painting in a surreal style. Then I saw the birds of prey flying wingless overhead, chanting in soft choruses to the newly dead. And I was wont to say the measure of the things I saw, bits of skeletons and bones that caused the crows to caw. A nightingale's copper cry echoed through the sky. The birds of prey were saddened, but they could not cry. They flew tearless through the night, their hearts engorged with pity. They flew wingless, lost in time, above the winter city. And they're gone, but not forgotten. This one's moving into, as I'm getting towards where I'm heading. This is called, actually it changed. First of all, I called it Eyes. And then as I reread it years later, I thought, that's a stupid title. So now I've called it And I Wish. Sharpening the tooth of the tiger and gleaning the eye of the cat, cast in the shadow of a moonbeam, the rabbits caught in the rim of the hat. There comes a growl from the inner soul, heavy like anthracite, steel-laden coal, and I wish you were here in my heart, and I wish we were never apart. I sit in the amber glow of lost time, in its resonating rhythm and rhyme, sharpening the eye of the tiger and gleaning the eye of the cat. The eye of my soul is wet with tears, and I'm caught in the taut of the slack. And I wish you were here in my heart, and I wish we were never apart. Now, laying soft upon my heart. I like these heart poems. I read a lot about the heart, even though sometimes I wonder if I have one. Laying soft upon the heart. A glimpse of steel, a flash of train, silent on the endless track. And oh, that I could ride again the rails and not look back. But you still waltz across my mind, a tender, wistful melody. And in those moments lost, I find the music brings you back to me. We traveled light with heavy hearts and rusty throats that could not sing, victims of our own false starts, dragging winter into spring, holding on too tight, losing everything. I hold a ticket in my hand. The destination is unknown. I've crossed the line drawn in the sand, and love has long since flown. But still, you waltz across my mind, a mellow Monet work of art. And in those moments lost, I find you laying soft upon my heart, a mellow Monet work of art, laying soft upon my heart. Yeah. This one is called Heaven's Sea. Who knows if heaven has a sea, but it probably does, because I think the Bible says on earth as it is in heaven, so there must be a sea there. Heaven's Sea. A distant water beckons me, close, but still too far away. I lie beneath a tall oak tree and listen as her branches sway. I visualize your tears and smiles hazing through the fog and rain. And I would walk 100 miles if I could hold you once again. Inside the hearkening twilight, a lonely whisper beckons me to walk into the waiting light, to sail with you on heaven's sea. Amongst the lilacs where I lie, I offer them my wettest tears. And all the while, the fading sky above me slowly disappears. No need to walk 100 miles to hold you once again. I taste your tears and feel your smiles, calling me into the rain. I leave behind my written words, my paintings, and a melody. I shed my flesh to fly with birds and sail with you on heaven's sea, to hold you once again inside this sacred rain. Yeah, whoever knew rain was sacred? I did. Okay, Deep Inside the Dream. This one actually, a friend of mine turned into a song, put some music to it, but it's a little bit different in the song. I'll read you the poem the way I wrote it. Deep inside the dream, cradled in the womb of time, I'm swaying on a quarter line. I walk this dream with hobbled feet down a dark and dusty street. Beneath a brackish crescent moon, I watch twilight crash into noon. And all the while, a silent song whispers as I travel on. It seems a quite familiar tune, reminds me of a night in June when I was summer in the fall, so far removed from winter's call. But now the days are losing light as I hold hands with pending night. Cradled in the womb of time, soliloquizing pantomime, soul unraveling at the seam. I am the dream, deep inside the dream. I have one more rhymer, no, sorry, two more rhymers, and then the free verse, and that should get me out in 14 minutes and 30 seconds as I've timed myself so perfectly. This one's called Night's Beaujolais Wine. In the heartland glitter of sage and shine, night falls like dark red Beaujolais wine. Hiding the beauty and scent of the rose, the sky's eyes flutter and slowly close. Beneath the sudden descent of darkness, clouds fall to their knees and start to undress. A sacred vibration awakens the sky as throngs of angels slowly pass by. Then the night's dark Beaujolais wine ebbs away into the dawn of a sage and shine day. The dew on the rose fades, then disappears as the sun reaches down to dry her tears. Hazing above the horizon line, I flow in the wake of a smooth white wine. Swinging new songs, I sway with the old as the heat of the music abates and grows cold. Life on a string, spun then unspun, the days growing weary and coming undone. I've had my glory, my time in the sun. I've passed the baton, my race has been run. So long I've sojourned in life's lost and found. Now, moving through lights, music, and sound, I stand in the quick of night's Beaujolais wine, in awe of God's grandeur and noble design. My last rhymer coming up, and I'll just give this one a little introduction. I was in the hospital waiting for some kind of test, and I had my cane propped up against a mirror thing, and I was looking at it. It's quite a colorful cane. And then I thought, boy, that cane, when I'm gone, wouldn't it be neat if it could miss me? But I know it can't because it's inanimate. So this is how that poem came about, the imagination of, I'm called this the cane. A multicolored sparkling cane stands beside the open door. Will it ever walk again or stand alone forevermore? If only that bright cane could talk, would it speak of better days when they went on their morning walk? When she was not lost in a haze? The cane would ask, where has she gone? In tones despairing and bereft. I don't hear her familiar song, and I'm so lonely since she left. The universe would hear her cry and gently touch her handle grip and whisper in a trembling sigh with a tender lip. She's gone to heaven high above and won't be coming back again. She's wrapped inside God's tender love. She's happy now and has no pain. And if that sparkling cane could speak, it would say, God bless her soul. A tear would grace its shiny cheek. Nevermore would they stroll. The talking cane. And my last one. I quite like this one. It's different. I live a lot in unreality. Like reality isn't really my big key. Non-reality. So I call this blessed unreality. A sudden shiver, an abrupt pain, an awakening to a new circumstance. An empty glass awaiting fulfillment, followed by the tinkling of crushed ice against the sides of a cut crystal tumbler. I trace my bluish purple raised veins through the pathways of my life as the tide of its lowest ebb, as the eyes in my mind slowly close. I stumble over the cliff of one of memory's hidden scars, the residue of a war lost, recalled as a victory. It slowly slides away on a film of deception, and I choose to believe it's true as I forge the delusion in fire. I conjure up a brand new image beyond imagination and imagine it to be true. This is a moment, an hour, a week, month, and year in the life of a poet, walking a tangled wire on the coveted path of blessed unreality. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Candice. That was gorgeous. All of your poetry was gorgeous. And thank you so much for reading. Both you and Alan have done a terrific job. So we're coming up to Elliott. Poet Elliott Slinn was named New Westminster's 5th and youngest poet laureate in June 2021, actively beginning his tenure in August. Slinn was born and raised in the Queen's Park neighborhood of New Westminster and still resides in the Royal City today. In addition to being a poet, he is also a singer-songwriter whose first single, It's You, was featured on Apple Music's Hot Tracks list and in Beetroot magazine. Slinn's poetry and lyrics focus on the existential events of our day-to-day existence. As one article noted, the lyrics are straightforward romance bordering on Sufism. Slinn's sparse vocals let the poetry of the lyrics take center stage. Slinn's work has been described as immediate and accessible as he aims to transform his personal tale into a shared experience. He is currently working on his first book of poetry and aims to record more music in the future. You can find excerpts of his work on his Instagram account at Elliott_Slinn. We can put that up in the chat section for you. Elliott, take it away.
Okay. After hearing that, it's always weird sitting through your own bio. So I think after hearing that, I may have to condense it a little bit or change it. My friend wrote it and it's quite a bit. So thanks for having me. It's really actually an honor because like I've attended the open mic when Alan was hosting it. I attended the open mic at the Heritage Grill when Candice was opening it. She used to call me Mad Dog Slinn. And, so there's just this, I feel like there's this lineage poetry in New West. So I'm just really honored to be a part of it. So as the bio said, I'm working on my first book of poetry. So I'm going to read some poems from that nobody's heard. So you're all going to kind of be my test audience, I guess. And the title of the book right now is A Pig in the Zoo. So the first poem I'm going to read is kind of where the title came from. In Asian astrology, I'm a pig, and I never really liked it because, there's dragons and tigers and other cooler animals, I thought. So this is kind of me poking fun at myself being a pig, and also just that's where the poem came from. So it's called The Animals, and then brackets, Life is But a Dream. While the dragon burns everything, while the lion eats everything, while the rooster wakes the sleeping world, the pig sits with a glass of wine and wonders at them all. The way the snake slips whispers into the ear, the way the bull shits gold bricks, the rat builds banks, the horse goes to war with the tiger, The monkey keeps telling lies to raise their ire. The dog gnaws at old brittle bones. The goat beats its head bloody, bleeding to go home. Their cage is locked. Someone lost the key, while the pig strolls through the concrete zoo merrily. So the next poem I'm gonna read is called The Moon Tonight. So I just write a lot about, what's happening around me. So the moon was beautiful that evening. So kind of, that's where it came from. I defy the morning by drinking with the moon. The clock slows its ticking, giving me just a little more time to type. Music moving my fingers, a soft light coming from the stove. Otherwise, it's dark and peaceful. I lock in like a pit bull, focused on the words. Trying to trap a fly who has flown in like an intruder to disturb my serenity. No matter, the night calls me back like a brunette beauty. I look off into nowhere, thinking of someone I won't name. Well, thank you. So I think I'm on the far end of the spectrum. I feel like Candice did some rhyme and I'm just way over in free verse. So there may be some internal rhyme somewhere, but a lot of it's just a lot of words. So this one's called Midnight Toast. The wine is flowing again. There's nothing left to fear. The air feels lighter knowing that there's still a chance. Starving, famished, I make midnight toast and think about the ghosts that have haunted me. I believe in love, but I'm not sure that love believes in me. This one's called My Last Thought. I thought about you one final time, and now I'm done. I can place your kiss in my memory and write your name in the past tense. Another dead end taken on the mean streets of love. So I write a lot about love and heartbreak, and I think all of us artists, we feel these things, and I think that's where the art comes from. And so, we all write of ourselves as the heroes, so that's where a lot of these come from. This one doesn't have a title yet. A stack of pages, love poems with no one to send them to, like relics of lost romance and some of the chances that worked out. They're on to businessmen and children, a White House. No matter which way the wind is leaning, these towers of poems stand like castles beaming. You'll find them all like buried treasure, soiled and beautiful, eaten by time. Maybe one will name their firstborn after me, or maybe they'll name a wine. So yeah, I grew up in New Westminster, and before the reading today, I went for a walk, and I just happened to be by my old house. And I'm pretty open about talking about, but I, like most people, I don't know if our childhoods were the best, and so there's a lot to work through. So this poem's titled 317 4th Avenue. I filled colored notebooks with black and blue ink. I wrote for girls and prayed for people to die. I was a powerless boy living inside the madness of a pristine house. All I had was a pen and paper, and in them, freedom. A place to scream through my sadness as red wine flooded the halls and the separation of broken love grew like two drifting continents. While I filled notebooks, confessing my darkness to the page like a priest. Some of them were burnt like a biblical sacrifice, a plea to God. Others were torn apart like I was a beast. I have none of those notebooks now, but I have retained all of their teachings. So I'm going to read a few more that I put into this book. They may make it, they may not, but this is the working document. So this one's called The Clock Keeps Ticking. The children keep growing. Dreams are born and die every day. I sit here in an empty apartment with a full sink and a full heart and a plan for escape. Perhaps it's all been luck or a persistent chipping at cement blocks, digging my way daily through the wall. I imagine it. Now I must do it. But isn't that the trick for it all? Let's see. This one's called An Electric Week. So it's a pretty short poem, but Electric Week. She got a poem, I got a candle. Exchanged a week's worth of romance. A fair trade for two Libras who know best how to love at arm's length. So this next one's called Another Day. Another day. The window still needs to be washed. Outside, ducks are wading in the mud. I understand them. The mire of a slow Sunday inside with the mind and many questions. Is there really a style, or is it just finally snapping, doing without regard for the form or structures that bribe us to conform? I only see individuals make it out. Maybe going in is getting out, letting the mind float away like a cloud searching for the sun. Another rainy day inside, born beneath a rainbow. Okay, I don't know if I've read for 15 minutes, but I just have one left. So I'm gonna read this one and then hope the open mic will go there. So this is called Bullets. We aim our love like loaded guns pointing at everyone, firing shots across the room, killing as we go. No one seems to love themselves, but they want to love someone else. As death stares them in the eye, winking, whistling, watching the time. Is love surrender or murder? You decide.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all for me. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Elliott.
Thank you.
As were the others. That was really wonderful poetry that you're writing. And I kind of see this interesting range of poetry that we've heard today from the three of you. And all three of you have your own voice and your way of expressing yourselves. And that's the beauty of poetry. I think we got a really good taste for that today. Thank you, all three. So now I'm going to open it up for question and answer, or Q&A. Yes, sorry, R, yes. You have a question?
Yes.
Okay, go for it.
So I have a question for Alan Hill. In your introduction, you were mentioning that you were involved with the immigration settlement. I am curious to know whether you're dealing with any Ukrainians in your work.
Interesting. Not yet. We've been told by the provincial government that we will be. Yeah, we will be. It's coming. It's coming. Yeah. Not quite yet, but that will be happening.
Yeah, I heard that Canada, for example, let in 70,000 Syrians with the conflict in the Middle East, and I've heard some people talk about 100,000 plus.
Robert, I really like to keep this to poetry, if you don't mind.
Okay, I'm done.
All right. Good question. Yeah, good question.
Thank you.
Maybe at the end, we might have time for that kind of discussion. I'm sorry, I hope I haven't offended anybody, but it feels like we're here for poetry. So questions for Alan or for who else is here today? I'm kind of lost track of myself. Yeah, okay, John, go for it.
Question for Candice. I'm always drawn to meter and rhyme, and I'm interested to know what brought you to rhymers from free verse.
Well, that's an interesting question. Number one, I started with a free verse on my first book that was published by Fiddlehead back in 1979. I had one or two rhymers in there. And then as Fred kept sending me stuff from him, he had a lot of rhymers. And I thought, you know, I should force myself to rhyme. So I decided I would make myself write 10 sonnets just to get myself away from free rhyme and see what it was like. And I hated doing it. I just hated doing them to begin with. And but by the time I hit number 10, I quite liked it. You know, I was very amazed. So I ended up having a book of sonnets published by Libros Libertad, but I won't mention his name, somebody read them before I did the final draft. And they said, oh, your pentameter's out. And I said, what are you talking about? And they said, you've got to go da 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 da. And I said, well, most of them, I think. I said, anyway, I think it's fine. And he said, don't publish it. It's not fine. Make sure you get that corrected. So I searched madly to find stuff that wasn't quite like that. And Shakespeare had 2 poems that did not adhere to the actual iambs and pentameters. So I said, see, but I did listen to him. In the long run, I actually did it. And that was even more work because I wasn't thinking about the actual meter. That's what got me really into meter, was making myself do those and having somebody say it's no good, do it again. So that's how it happened. Thank you, John.
Okay. It's nice to see that it happening. I like to see more of that kind of poetry.
Okay, I've got 2 people, I think Robert and KB. So Robert, I think, had his hand up first, and then KB.
Actually, KB had her hand up first.
You didn't have your hand up? Sorry?
Yeah, KB had her hand up first.
First, all right then. KB, it's yours.
Thanks, Robert. Actually, this follows John's discussion. Candice, I find that strictly metered and rhymed poems sound like they're crying out to be songs. And if your alter ego as a musician has informed your writing and or if there's challenges, if you have anything to say about that, and maybe even Elliott too, now that I hear that you're a songwriter.
Okay, I'll do a quick answer, then I'll let Elliott elaborate. I like that. That's I forget what you call it, but it's one of those, an Elliott elaboration. Anyway, music, this is really interesting you asked me that, KB. Even to now, I used to go to some readings and there'd be some people that actually would pick up a guitar and they'd put their poems to music, but it was not, even the music wasn't really rhythmic, you know what I mean? It's really hard, because I used to say to my husband, you know, there really is a difference between a song and a poem. And it's ever so faint, but there is a difference, because I have written a lot of my own songs. I've been fortunate to have had them recorded over the years. But when somebody else writes music to my lyrics, I give them free rein. I said, you know what, change the lyrics as you have to make it flow. And a lot of times they change because I see it one way, in the poetic way. And then if I even write a song, I got to change my own lyrics somewhat. Over to Elliott.
Okay, yeah. I'll piggyback off of that. So one of my favorite musicians is Leonard Cohen. And I remember hearing him say once that he felt the difference between poetry and music is that nobody takes the needle off the record to hear a line again, right? And so I think when you're reading a poem, there's more space around it, and you can sit with one line, read it over and over, whereas a song just keeps going. And so when I've written songs, usually it's me falling onto the music, and then words will come, and then I'll start writing through then there. But I've never written and then put music to it. It's always been music and then the words, because the words have to like get on that train the way that I see it and go. So yeah, that's how I see it.
Thank you, Elliott. Thank you, Candice. So it was Robert.
Okay. Just a note that the CDC show, The Debaters, had a debate this weekend on what is better, a song or a poem to convey love? And actually, Dan Mangan was argued for the song. My question for Elliott, if I recall correctly, you mentioned Bukowski is one of your favorite poets or mentors or whatever.
Yeah.
I read a lot of Bukowski, and he never fails to disgust me and also to entrance me.
Mhm.
I'm just wondering, how do you keep those two apart? Because he's so brilliant, but man, he makes me sick sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you, because there's a lot of, I guess, his views or things that he writes about that I'm not on board with. What I like about him is his directness. I think like that's what speaks to me, is that I think he takes these really the daily life and makes it art, and that's what draws me to him. But yeah, I know what you mean about some of his views. Like, so yeah, that's how I see it. It's like I don't know if I love everything about the man, but I love his style.
Thank you, Elliott. Anybody else have a burning question or just something they want to say? Okay, I wanted to ask Alan a question. Alan, I wonder if writing your latest book of poetry was somehow a tougher journey than writing your previous poetry books, or perhaps not. I'm just curious about that.
In some ways, yes. Yeah, tougher to publish in a way, because it involves family and friends and real people.
Mm-hmm.
Many of them fortunately live on the other side of the world, I suppose, but there's always that worry that that's going to cause some problems for people, or people are going to misunderstand.
Mm-hmm. And how did that affect your writing, if it did at all?
A long time. I've been working writing this a long time, and some of the poems are quite old. I've rewritten them. I always feel like my entire writing career I've been working towards publishing on this subject, Yeah, but yeah, some of it's quite, there's that feelings you have to put aside, that people are going to read this and judge me, or just think badly, read it and think, oh my God, what the hell is that? Who is this person? But you have to kind of, also I think hopefully some people will get a lot of comfort and insight from it, and enjoy it as poetry as well. So it's kind of that, yeah, it was a nervous experience publishing it in some ways,
Yeah, and so I get a sense that it was part of your poetic journey was to bring you to a place where you felt more comfortable doing this.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to hold this kind of round two of it, and
Yeah.
we're kind of getting there now, I suppose. Yeah.
Lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? I wanted to ask the poets a question about being poet laureate. And I wondered if each of you would take just a few minutes to talk about what being poet laureate meant to you in terms of the work that you do. Let me see, who am I going to start with? Candice looks like she's trying to avoid my eyes. So it's you I'm asking first, Candice.
Okay, I wasn't avoiding you, right? I put my thing on mute because I spilled some of my tea on the carpet.
Oh dear.
I said to Ken, I've spilled the tea. Can you clean it up quick? He was cleaning up the tea I spilled.
Okay.
Oh my God. Well, poet laureate, being poet laureate. I remember when I first became poet laureate, I asked Greg Majorescu, who was the person that I reported to in the city. He was like the person that was my liaison on city council. I think he was, I forget what he was, but he was something to do with the arts. Anyhow, he said, the poet laureate position is you are the ambassador for multiculturalism for the city of New Westminster to the world. So when he told me that, I thought, well, I better not just stick around town here. So I did some little bit of traveling, and I ended up touching base, not just locally with people in India and down in the States, and getting stuff published here and there, and and then trying to connect with them and at Poetic Justice and different things. I put out a few anthologies for Royal City poets, but it wasn't just Royal City. I got a bunch of different people from wherever, and then I had some others. So I really tried to get New Westminster on the map for the world. That's what it meant for me. Get people going, get the culture. So I started a bunch of the poetic things in town and then stretched them out to the world.
Great, great. Thanks, Candice. Okay, I'm going to go to Alan.
I suppose my approach was different, but hopefully complementary in a way, because I really went to the high school and lots of non-profit agencies and Douglas College and community groups, and really kind of dug in to get people who live locally, who maybe have written a bit of poetry or maybe are not considered writing poetry, and get them interested in the art form and interested in exploring what it means to live in New Westminster. So that complements what Candice was doing.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I could have done what I was doing unless Candice had done what she did. So, if you know what I mean, you know, so Candice set it all up. So I'm in a position to be able to take it in my own direction. So, yeah.
Lovely. That's great. Thanks, Alan. And in fact, the initials under my name wouldn't be there if it weren't for Candice, Royal City Literary Arts Society. And so, Elliott, you haven't been in your position for very long yet, but maybe you could give us your sense of.
Yeah, I'm really new into it, but I guess it's a combination of what Candice and Alan both said. Like, there's ways that I want to create opportunities for people that are coming up, like younger people. You know, I think it is just a lot about opportunities and having the chance to have your voice heard and shared. So there's that side of it. And then also, like Alan said, like, I can't, what Robert likes Bukowski, I remember he said in an interview, they said, well, when did you know you're a writer? And he's like, you never know you're a writer, you just think you're a writer. And so doing this, like going to, just really quickly, but like quitting my job, going back to school to, you know, take writing classes because that's what I thought I wanted to do. And then now doing it for 14 years, and you're just posting on Instagram and going to open mics, and you never know, it's just kind of, you're just hoping or trying. And so there's this validation, I guess, in a way, but also the responsibility, like I said, of opening doors or giving opportunities to other people. So like, I'm humbled, and I, to be honest, it doesn't even feel like it's happened. But it, you know, I'm just trying to enjoy it and do my best to keep the line of poets going, you know, beyond me and beyond all of us. So there you go.
Wonderful. Thank you, Elliott. And what I get out of all three of you is that part of your job is to make connections, or part of your position is to make connections. And it sounds like that's what all three of you are doing in your own way. Thank you so much. And thank you again for being here today.